we've been discussing maybe 3 targets. You've got your zone 2 or lower level cardio. You've got your high-end sort of VO2 max, really maxing out, and you've got your strength and stability. It's just loose heuristic. So the zone 2, is it you're feeling that zone 2 is most conducive to supporting the health of the mitochondria?
No.
Okay, well, please elaborate. You know, you want to be doing all of these, but how do you think about each one in terms of what people should be doing and maybe some indications for how much? Some people say go every other day, do your low-level cardio one day, then weight training the next day. How do you come at this?
Yeah, so we come at it from the lens of understanding that VO2 max is one of the real very important metrics when it comes to longevity in terms of prediction of how many years you'll live, whether you'll have cancer, whether you'll have dementia, whether you'll have heart disease. It's not the only metric like this, of course. There are many others that are very, very important as well. But when it comes to cardiovascular health, for sure, VO2 max is really, really, it's a big deal.
Which is your high, just for our audience, that's your high end. That's kind of as fast as you can rev the Ferrari, so to speak.
Yeah, it's essentially VO2 max. You're right. It's at the high end. It's at the full end. Really what it's measuring is how much oxygen can your body use. That's VO2 max, right? How much oxygen can your body use? And that's a function of mitochondrial health. But ultimately, it's also a surrogate marker or another marker for how much blood can your heart pump, right? Because in order to get oxygen to the mitochondria, the heart's got to be pumping it, right? So we look at it as how much blood can your heart pump. That's VO2 max. And the more blood your heart can pump per minute, the stronger you are, the healthier you are, the longer you live, the better everything is, right? And so we've worked with people. I've been measuring VO2 max now almost for 20 years. And so we've seen what works and what doesn't work. And I have no bias in this. I'll just report to you what we've seen. So people come in and they'll say, well, I'm doing a lot of zone 2. I'm building my VO2 max. It's like, great, let's put you on the bike and see what happens. VO2 maxes are low. People come in and they say, oh, I'm doing Orange Theory. My trainer says I'm getting all kinds of cardio out of this. We're doing HIIT. We're doing all this stuff. Great. Let's put you on the bike. Their VO2 maxes are low. Then we talk to people that are doing zone 3 and they do intermittent stuff at zone 5 and they do protracted cardio. They're out riding a bike for an hour or 45 minutes. They go for a run. They do this their VO2s are the highest because when they actually combine sustained cardio, not at zone 2, but at a level where you can't carry on a conversation, right? And then they peak it out with zone 5, right, where you're all in. I mean, you get to the top of the hill and you're breathless. That's zone 5. Those people, highest VO2s, no doubt. The highest VO2s we've measured have been in triathletes, running, biking, swimming, right? And they've had the highest VO2s that we've had. We had one guy who was a bodybuilder, who was a natural, non-steroid, non-hormone associated bodybuilder, who also did a lot of cardio. He had the most power on the bike of any person. He pushed 400 watts. There was only one other guy, a triathlete, that could do that. And he also had a very high VO2 because he actually did cardio along with his weight stuff. So I think what we find is that many trainers are misleading people that they're getting cardio while they're doing resistance training. It's just not really happening to the extent they're getting some. It's much better than sitting on the couch, but they're not building VO2 the way that they could if they actually just focus on the cardio piece. So that's what we've learned.
And by the way, if this has been helpful, please comment and subscribe. I really do appreciate hearing what people think, so I'll look forward to reviewing your comments. Great points there. So to hit and respond to a few of those, totally agree that there are some that say all you need is weight training.
Yeah.
And I would agree that weight training arguably is foundational, meaning if you can only do one, maybe you'd want to only do weight training for the muscle mass and for some of the cardio carryover. But I think that's debatable, right? So the point I'm trying to make is the people who tell you all you've got to do is weight training and don't do cardio because it's going to kill your body composition. As an athlete, as a former college athlete and someone who's gone all over the spectrum. I have not felt my best when I was only doing weights, even if it was weights as HIIT training, where I'm walking out of the gym dripping in sweat and feeling like I had a vision because I work so hard. There's
Right.
something different that you get when you're
It's different.
going for a 3 or a 5 mile run or a 10 or a 15-mile ride
Right.
as one component. And then along with that, when you're doing those, trying to hit your VO2 max efforts where you feel like you're going to cough up a lung because you're pushing
Hmm.
so hard for 1, 2, or 3 minutes. It's just a different
Yeah.
adaptation.
It's a different adaptation. I agree. And, I really wish that, that you could do zone 2 and build VO2 out the wazoo. I mean, I wish that was the case because we'd have more people with great VO2s. Um, and there are so many people that actually, I find people fall into two camps. They really prefer cardio or they really prefer resistance training. And that's kind of their bias, right? And it's so important for the people that love cardio to do resistance training. And it's so important for the resistance training loving people to do cardio because you really want both. And when you think about it, all of this training we talked earlier about comes down to training the nervous system. So you want to train your nervous system. You think, movement is training your nervous system. Well, it is. So the weights are doing that, but so is running, so is biking, right? Navigating yourself around trees and all that. Your nervous system is dialed in, man. And you are building your whole parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system tone to handle those stresses in a way that you're just not getting or able to get, quite honestly, with weight training. And just like with that, you're getting stronger neural connections and stronger joints and everything else. I do both because I know that I'm a much better mountain biker when I'm doing resistance training, and I'm a much better resistance trainer when I'm doing mountain biking. So that's it.
Yeah, and just to put a practical example out there, you want to be able to do all things. I remember
That's right.
a friend I had when I was in college, again, coming from a college athletics background, the guy had a build like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just everyone's
Sure.
like, "Oh man, so-and-so looks so great." And we went and played soccer one day, and it was like I was running circles around him, literally.
Right.
He's like a salamander, right? All he could do was these, bodybuilding movements. And so,
That's right.
now you come to where you're a little bit older, and yeah, it's challenging when you, let's say, go for a ride and then you want to do a quick half-mile run. But the
Right.
more you challenge your body to adapt, and I guess it's your body, your nervous system, and your muscular system,
Yeah.
you notice, boy, it's getting much easier to go from a ride to a run to a row to hitting the
Hmm.
bag. And I
Yep.
no longer feel like when I go from biking to running, everything is tight and it's hard to sort of
Right.
elongate.
Right.
And this is, I think, what we ultimately want. We want to be able to have, our kids run at us and grab them and throw them up in the air and then run a
Yep.
little sprint after them and reach
That's
down
right.
and grab them and just be able to move fluidly. So it would make
That's
sense
it.
that the more we're doing a multitude of movements, just like eating
That's
a lot
right.
of different vegetables is good for the
Yeah.
various
Right.
polyphenols they contain, we want to be moving in as diverse of a swath as we possibly can.
I agree. I think if you can move in as many ways as possible, I've become very enamored, and I haven't really started doing it yet, but I'm very enamored with the concept of functional fitness, where these guys are down on the floor and they're moving around and they're doing all these body weight exercises and stretches and positions and those people, man, when you look at those people, they are ripped, and they also have incredible flexibility, right? You talk about their hips and everything else. One of the downsides of weight training or running for that matter is that you kind of over exercise and people get stiff and limited in terms of how much flexibility they have, right? So
I'll raise my hand on that one.
well, there you go, right? And so
Yeah.
what we really want is we want flexibility with strength. And so I think some of the functional training stuff is really quite phenomenal for that.
And let me just backpedal for 1 second to the zone 2, because this is something that I feel has gotten so much press, the importance of zone 2, lower level steady state cardio. And I don't refute that, but I do think it's really important that people, along with the zone 2, are maybe doing some, like you've said, zone 3 and then zone 5. So zone 3 is going to be,
100%.
like you said, and I've intuitively found my way here where I did for a while, and I still do a decent amount of zone 2, but there are moments when I just want to open up the throttle a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
And then even moments where I want to go hit my max and then recover. So
right.
within this concept of training different movements, I guess this is just training different intensities.
That's right.
I would also say if every workout is an hour of you being zone 3, zone 4, that might be a little bit too aggressive in
It
terms
is.
of maybe you'll burn out. So, I think
Yeah.
the pyramid model of the bottom of the pyramid is zone 2. one
Hmm.
rung up is some zone 3 and the pinnacle is sort of some zone 5 or some maxing out. That's maybe a good way of visualizing this.
Yeah, I think you should understand that zone 4, there's not a whole lot of value in zone 4. It's just kind of like almost like you're overstressing. Now, zone 5 obviously is a higher stress, but because you're doing it at max output and you're actually becoming, anaerobic, you should understand that your cells are powered by two motors, right? Everybody's a hybrid car. The mitochondria is the aerobic motor. It's burning oxygen and fuel, making ATP and shooting off exhaust. Well, that's one motor. The other motor, though, is the glycolytic pathway, and that sits in the cytoplasm, and it only burns glucose. Both those motors make CO2, but it only burns glucose. And you can actually, we measure this, you can get an idea of how in shape somebody is by how far can the mitochondria carry them before the hybrid motor has to kick in, right?
I like
That's
that.
called the anaerobic threshold. And that's actually a great measure of how in shape somebody is. But when you're all in on exercise, when you're in zone 5, you've got both motors firing on all cylinders. And consequently, you're actually expelling more CO2 than you're taking in oxygen
Mm.
because both motors are making CO2, but only one is burning oxygen,
And that's what
right?
eventually slows you down, to my understanding.
Exactly.
It's the CO2 buildup.
Exactly. And if you train at those higher levels, you can actually train your body,
Tolerate
um,
more.
right,
Yeah.
to actually handle that and metabolize the oxidative stress and the acidity and the lactate that comes out. All those things can be, you can train your body to utilize that stuff. That's where blood flow restriction exercise comes in, which is, like the Vespers blood flow restriction with interval training. So now you're actually getting the benefits of interval training plus blood flow restriction. I find when I do that, you build strength so much more quickly, and you recover so much faster. It's really a pretty phenomenal thing to throw in there as well.